The Octagon has witnessed countless battles, but few moments are as electrifying as a debut. The anticipation, the hype, and the raw energy combine to create a cauldron of excitement that can launch a fighter into stardom or send them back to the drawing board. From jaw-dropping knockouts to technical masterclasses.
Right hand, left hand.
These debuts are more than just fights, they are stuff of legend. The UFC debuts that stand out are those where fighters seize their moment, leaving an indelible mark on fans and pundits alike. These debuts are more than just fights, they are stuff of legend. What's poppin', y'all? It's your boy back in the lab, and they say it's important to make a first impression. Well, in the world of the UFC, that is something that can be extremely tough, man. Let's be honest. Not only are you trying to impress the boss, but you also got thousands of blood-hungry, ravaged fans watching, and they want you to put on, and they're begging to be entertained.
Are you not entertained?
Sometimes fighters completely fumble their moment. Other times, they knock it out of the park. So join me as we look at some of the most unforgettable first steps inside the Octagon. This is the greatest debuts in UFC history. Remember, keep those hands up.
Took me 7 years to get here. It's Las Vegas. You gotta be excited about that. It's UFC, and I can just feel this energy. So I'm emotionally charged right now.
When Houston Alexander made his debut at UFC 71, the MMA world collectively gasped. The Nebraska native entered the Octagon fresh off 5 consecutive finishes outside the Octagon with an aura of invincibility surrounding him. He had the skill, the look, and the personality. He seemed like the full package, but standing in his way was a formidable obstacle. The Dean of Mean, Keith Jardine. Jardine, a former bounty hunter, was at the top of his career, riding high from a monumental knockout victory over Forrest Griffin. He was on the cusp of a title shot, needing just one more win to solidify his claim. But as the saying goes,
Houston, we have a problem.
When the cage door shut, both Alexander and Jardine unleashed a minute of unadulterated violence. Jardine struck first, dropping Alexander early, seemingly seizing control. Yet Alexander's resilience was on full display. He clawed his way back up, clinched Jardine, and unleashed a barrage of devastating strikes. 2 thunderous uppercuts later, the Dean of Mean was left face down on the canvas, unconscious. The arena erupted in a frenzy as thousands of fans witnessed the birth of a new star. Houston Alexander had arrived, and he arrived with a bang. Alexander followed up his stunning debut with another highlight reel knockout against Alessio Sakara, further cementing his status as a must-watch fighter.
It's all over! Houston Alexander is for real! Wow!
However, the momentum was fleeting. He lost 5 of his next 6 fights and eventually drifted to other promotions around the globe. Despite the ups and downs of his career, Alexander's victory at UFC 71 remains one of the best debuts of all time.
Keith Jardine jumped all over him, and Houston put him away! Welcome to the UFC!
Number 4, Joe Lauzon.
I know what he can do. I know what I can do. I can get him.
If I can get him to stop for 4 seconds, wow, man, splat, he's done.
When Jens Little Evil Polar returned to the UFC at UFC 63, anticipation was at a fever pitch. The promotion's first ever lightweight champion had left a legacy, defeating legends like Cal Uno and BJ Penn before contract disputes led to his departure. Despite ups and downs outside the UFC, Pulver's comeback was seen as a chance to reclaim former glory. He was a heavy favorite at 7-1 odds, with experts already eyeing a potential rematch with BJ Penn in the horizon. But standing in his path was a young, relatively unknown 22-year-old from Massachusetts named Joe Lauzon. Known for his grappling prowess rather than his striking, Lauzon was not given much of a chance against the seasoned Pulver. However, as they say, fights aren't won on paper. In just 45 seconds, Lauzon turned the MMA world upside down. After a quick takedown attempt, Lauzon surprised everyone by trading blows with Pulver on the feet. In a blink, Pulver was rocked. A perfectly timed knee, followed by a thunderous left hand, sent Pulver crashing to the feet. The much anticipated return of Jens Pulver had been derailed in stunning fashion. Lauzon's victory not only earned him Fight of the Night honors, but also marked the beginning of an illustrious career inside the octagon. Over 29 fights, Lauzon became a mainstay in the lighter divisions, known for his thrilling performances that earned him 7 Fight of the Night bonuses and the distinction of having the most post-fight bonuses in UFC lightweight division history. After his debut, Lauzon ended up going on and competing for the Ultimate Fighter. So it's one of the few occasions where a fighter debuted in the UFC before even competing on the show. And to make it even more ironic, my man was coached by 2 coaches on that season. That was BJ Penn and Jens Pulver, the dude he just knocked out. Imagine being coached by the dude you just knocked out. You ain't telling me nothing. Number 3, Pete Williams. At UFC 17, the stage was set for redemption, but it turned into a night of unforeseen twists and legendary upsets. Mark Coleman, returning to the octagon after losing his UFC heavyweight championship, was slated to face Randy Couture. However, fate intervened, with Couture's injury paving the way for Pete Williams from Lion's Den to step in on short notice. Williams was an unknown. Still, with a record of 7 wins and 1 loss, those familiar with him knew he possessed a deadly mix of submission and knockout finishes. Despite Coleman's early dominance, the toll of the fight soon became apparent. After a grueling 12-minute round, an overtime round was called. Coleman, visibly fatigued and vulnerable, found himself absorbing punishing shots from Williams, including one of the most thunderous leg kicks ever witnessed.
And finally Coleman shoots for a leg. Oh, the knee delivered to the face of Mark Coleman. Oh, my goodness. Coleman's down, that's it. Petey Williams delivers.
In a stunning turn of events, Williams secured victory by knockout, sending shockwaves through the arena and etching his name in UFC lore. The celebration that followed was nothing short of euphoric, marking the pinnacle of Williams' career. Although Williams would falter in his next fight, his legacy persisted in the UFC until 2002, culminating with a record of 4 wins and 5 losses. His unforgettable knockout of Coleman transcended his career, earning its place as one of the greatest knockouts in UFC history. In 2016, this pivotal moment was enshrined in the UFC Hall of Fame's Fight Wing, ensuring Pete Williams' place in MMA history as the man who stunned a legend. Okay, so the last few fighters we spoke about had great debuts, but for the most part, pretty non-remarkable careers in the UFC. Our last 2 fighters, though, well, their debuts not only paved the way to UFC gold, it set the stage for what would be Hall of Fame careers.
After I win this fight, it's only going to be better and better. I can show my great potential, and I think I'm going to have some great fights here.
Number 2, Junior Dos Santos. At just 24 years old, Junior Dos Santos made his first walk into the UFC octagon at UFC 90 in 2008, carrying the hopes and dreams of a promising future. The MMA community was buzzing with curiosity about this Brazilian newcomer who had impressively won 6 of his last 7 fights, all by finish. Despite his potential though, Dos Santos entered the octagon as a massive underdog. The reason for this was his opponent, fellow countryman and UFC veteran Fabricio Verdum. Riding a 2-fight win streak, Verdum was on the cusp of a title shot against reigning champion Minotauro Nogueira. Yet, in a mere 90 seconds, Dos Santos would shatter those hopes and catapult himself into the spotlight. With a powerful right uppercut, Dos Santos sent Verdum crashing to the canvas. What followed was a ferocious ground and pound assault, forcing the referee to step in and stop the fight. In that moment, the legend of Junior Dos Santos was born.
Oh man!
The knockout earned him the prestigious Knockout of the Night award and later 2008's Knockout of the Year. Dos Santos embarked on an 8-fight winning streak after this, catapulting himself into the UFC heavyweight picture, winning gold along the way. His list of vanquished foes reads like a who's who of the heavyweight division, including names like Stipe Miocic, Shane Carwin, and Cain Velasquez. His 9-fight win streak remains the longest in heavyweight history. Although Dos Santos was released from the UFC in 2021, his legacy is undeniable. The Brazilian bomber, who stunned the world with his debut, is undoubtedly destined for a place in the UFC Hall of Fame.
We're talking about a guy who was probably the #1 contender outside of Brock Lesnar. Look at this. Oh, look at his ears wiggle.
Number 1, Anderson Silva.
After he gets in there with me and I knock him out, he may want to go back to Japan or somewhere where the competition's a little easier.
Those were the infamous words of the crippler Chris Lieben before his fateful encounter with a man destined to become a legend. On a seemingly random UFC Fight Night card in 2005, Lieben was positioned as a sacrificial lamb for Anderson the Spider Silva, a debuting fighter already hailed as one of the best strikers in the world. Despite it being his UFC debut, the buzz surrounding Silva was palpable. With a record of 17-4 and a former Cage Rage middleweight championship to his name, Silva was expected to win. But it wasn't just the victory that left the audience in awe. It was the manner in which he dismantled Lieben. In just 45 seconds, Silva delivered a performance so dominant it bordered on unfair. Not a single strike missed its mark. The assault culminated in a perfectly placed right knee that left the crippler crumbled onto the canvas. For die-hard fans, this was the arrival they had anticipated. For casual observers, it was a revelation. Silva's debut set the gold standard for UFC newcomers. His victory earned him an immediate title shot, which he seized, kicking off one of the most legendary careers in MMA history. Silva holds the record for the longest title reign and the most knockouts in UFC title fights, solidifying his status as a pioneer of mixed martial arts. Recognized for his extraordinary contributions to the sport, Anderson Silva was inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame in 2023. His debut remains a shining example of how to make a statement in the UFC. It's your boy Lou Too Sick. Thank you for watching the best debuts in UFC history. Like the video, subscribe, comment below, let me know any debuts I might have missed. Remember, let's keep the conversation going because we got a lot more coming. And always, keep those hands up.
Every time I wake up, shit feel the same. Got a million thoughts and they weighing on my brain. Sipping on my favorite liquor just to ease the pain. Cause I feel like I'm crazy and desperate need to change. Making plans to move and talking state to state. Talking pounds and haze, medical high. Ray, look how my eyes stay. What more can I say? How dare a nigga tell me that this rap won't work?